Hey, you guys, this is Scott with BigONE. Happy to be here today. Going to interview a really amazing company that's an addition to BigONE. We're very excited about them as well. We have Sam here with us, and I'll let you introduce yourself to everyone.
Hey, good morning, guys. This is Sam from BigONE as well. Yeah, great to be here.
That's awesome. And Eli, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the company that you are working with?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Very pleased to be here. So my name is Eli Weir. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Enegra Group. Enegra Group is a large trading commodity company or group of companies located here in Southeast Asia. We help mid-tier miners to compete globally by applying our financial, logistics, and technical expertise to help them really get the best prices for their commodities on the world stage. We first started working with blockchain technology way back in 2017, which is when I got involved with the company. At the time, I was working with an external technology provider. I got very interested in what Enegra was attempting to do and led the effort in 2019 to tokenize Enegra's equity. Joined the board, was on the board for a couple of years, and I stepped off the board earlier this year to take up the COO role and really work with Enegra hands-on.
That's awesome. Can you tell us how the idea of this came around? Because I don't think there is a lot of projects out there like you guys right now. At the moment.
It sort of came around over a series of discussions over maybe 6 months to a year between myself, Matthew Avery, the CEO of Enegra, and a few other people, where we were looking at how could we apply emerging technologies such as blockchain to the trade cycle of commodities. How can we tighten up the trade cycle, make it more efficient, have a better audit trail, and also how can we apply it to the trading of those commodities? And we started working on a few sort of research projects, experiments on how we can apply it to the actual trade itself, such as using an NFT to represent a particular shipment of a commodity whose value goes up to a certain, as it goes through certain gates in the trade cycle, its value changes and then eventually gets burnt when the commodity gets delivered to the customer. And out of that, we started thinking, you know what, besides applying this blockchain technology to the trade, why don't we apply it to the company? And Enegra was at the stage where it was growing bigger. It was looking at how it could move from being a privately held company with a small number of large institutional investors to a more public company with a large number of smaller, retail investors. And so we decided, why don't we tokenize the equity in the company rather than going through an IPO?
That's amazing. Sam, do you have a question to kind of start things off for you?
Yeah, I'm a little bit curious on why you guys have chosen the Polygon blockchain instead of the regular Ethereum.
Well, right from the start, we decided that we wanted to be on Ethereum because we wanted as friction-free an experience as possible for as wide a group of investors as possible. And when we first started working on all of this back in 2017, I mean, really, there was just Ethereum. That was it. I mean, if you weren't doing things on Ethereum, what were you going to do it on? And as time went by, we first issued EGX on Ethereum, but we soon encountered rising gas fees, network congestion, etc. We still like Ethereum, but we needed to solve those issues. Polygon has solved those issues to a certain extent and has built out an amazing suite of products. And so for us, it was a natural choice to move from Ethereum onto a layer 2 on top of Ethereum, Polygon, still be part of that wider Ethereum ecosystem, but take advantage of the fast transaction speed and very low gas fees on Polygon. I mean, for us, it's almost gasless because the fees are so minuscule compared to what we were paying on Ethereum.
Yeah, and I hear it's a very fast transaction speed as well. when it comes to Polygon. So, and here's the other person to our thing, Chris, surviving as we call it. And look at his smile. He came in with a smile just like I figured. So you have a question for Eli?
I just want to actually, what have you guys covered so far? So I don't like backtrack and kind of go over the same things that you guys already gone over.
We're just getting started, man.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
You won't.
All right. So like, let's say I was actually new and I didn't know anything about what you guys are doing. What would be the best way to describe what you guys are doing right now?
Well, we're a traditional capital markets meets the blockchain. That's us. So we're a very traditional firm working in a traditional field. We buy and sell commodities. We do it in a slightly different way, though. What we do is we buy the offtake from a miner so that miner doesn't have to worry about finance. They don't have to worry about logistics. All they have to worry about is digging stuff up. So right now in our offtake agreements, you know, we own a lot of resources in the ground that haven't yet been dug up. And then we set about turning those resources into money.
So how do you guys actually convert this to actual cryptocurrency from the miners? Because this is like, if you're thinking about mining, right, in the traditional sense for cryptocurrency, we're thinking computing, right? And you're actually talking about the actual real mining. So what's the connection between the actual, you know, the old form of mining versus the new form of computing mining for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, we're big proof of stake supporters, by the way, not proof of work. So we're less about that type of mining. But the connection here is that it's all about the representation of something, a tokenization of something, right? So we've tokenized contracts into NFTs. We've tokenized our equity into a security token. We've also tokenized debt. So we're just about to release a new debt token, EOTA, which stands for Enegra Offtake Agreement. And we've tokenized a debt offering. So some people want capital gain, which is why they would buy EGX, which is our equity-backed token. Some people want a fixed income, right? And so they can buy our EOTA token, which will pay them a 15% yield. We also have a convertible option, which can convert from the debt token into the equity token. So the connection here is really that, you know, anything that can be tokenized will be tokenized in the future. And we've started that off by tokenizing these various different things.
I love that.
And what are you guys using to actually back the commodities in a sense? Are you guys actually using a commodity, or are you guys actually converting to some form of fiat to actually back the liquidity from the commodities?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, from an equity perspective, it's just straight equity. I mean, each EGX equals basically one share in the company.
But are the equities tied to US dollar, or is it to or what is it actually tied to?
Okay,
because equities are different throughout every region, right? Like if we think about it.
So we're Enegra Group, our parent company, which is what the equity is tokenized from, is registered in Labuan. Labuan is an offshore financial jurisdiction. It's part of Malaysia. But as a separate federal territory set up as an offshore financial center, it's got different laws from the rest of the country. So it's a financial hub for banks, shipping, insurance, and fintech as well, guys like us. Very fintech friendly regulator, very clear regulations. In Labuan, what they say is, we don't care if it's a token or not a token. We're going to regulate this asset by existing securities law, right? Exactly. So if it's a share, we regulate it by the appropriate legislation. If it's gold, we regulate it by that legislation. Now, because we're in Labuan, it's part of Malaysia, but it's separate. And up until recently, now they've changed the law recently, but up until recently, you weren't allowed to do business in Malaysian ringgit. You had to use a different currency. And so, given that the world sort of operates on US dollars, we had years ago declared US dollar to be our corporate currency of choice. And so all of our accounting, all of our audit, everything is done in US dollars. At some point in the future, maybe that will change. Maybe it'll be in Bitcoin, maybe it'll be in something else. But right now, our accounting is done in US dollars. Okay.
Yeah, and that's actually
what,
very smart because you guys actually get the benefit of being a U.S. dollar versus the Malaysian dollar, in the sense that we know you guys get the benefit both ways. So that's actually really smart. I like that.
yeah. So I mean, a US dollar is understood globally, right? But that's what you need to understand is that's just an accounting thing, right? So there's no actual US dollars backing those tokens. It's a share, right? So that's the equity itself. But what's backing the equity? Like, what's the value? The value of that is the net asset value of our company. That's where the commodities come in. So we own essentially this offtake. This offtake, as of our last published audited accounts, the net asset value of the company, assets minus liabilities, was about $33.9 billion. So US dollars. So those commodities, that net asset value divided by the number of outstanding tokens gives you the book value of EGX, right? So if you say what's back in this one token, well, each one token has something like $393 worth of commodities attached to it. If you broke it down like that, it's not quite that easy, because if you shut a company down and sell all its assets, it doesn't quite usually equal. But
yeah,
from an accounting perspective, it's $393.
And that's on both. Is that on both tokens?
That's on the equity token, right?
Okay.
The other tokens that we're talking about, IOTA is debt. It's trade finance, right? You give us money, we take that money and we use it to finance a shipment of nickel, right? Okay. So we take the cash, we put it in the bank gives us a letter of credit, and we use that letter of credit to, it's got like a
it's pretty much what happens to people money every day that they don't know about when they put their money in banks.
Correct. So each one of those IOTA debt tokens is backed by that money in the bank that we're using to do the trade cycle, and we pay a 15% yield on that. So those are the two main tokens we're talking about here. There is a third token, which is the NFTs that we use to represent the trade, right? Which is an internal thing between us and the supply chain. When we don't have the nickel, when the nickel sands are sitting on the ground there before it's bulldozed up into a big pile, the value of that NFT is very low. Once it's all bulldozed into a big pile, ready to go into the barge, the value of that NFT goes up. When it's on a barge going down the river, it goes up. When we deliver it to the customer, it is burnt and goes back to zero.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I have a question, I guess, for you too, and then I can go to Sam and get her to ask a question too. But I guess being from Canada and especially from Alberta, I realize that you guys are heavily in Asia right now. But do you think you might have any plans in the future to potentially work in different areas, like say Alberta itself with oil and gas, or even the oil sands, the way we have it here?
To be honest, probably not. And the reason for that is our value chain, our value to the trade cycle is a lot less in a mature market, in a leading economy like Canada, right? The reason is that the mid-tier, so our target is mid-tier miners, not the top guys and not the artisanal miners. It's the mid-tier miners. These are the guys that are big enough to deliver 10,000 tons of nickel sands or a big mother vessel of coal at a time, but they're struggling to get the trade finance and logistics and everything else to compete with the really big boys. So that's our target. And really our target is in emerging markets like Indonesia, or maybe some South American or some other African jurisdictions where they don't necessarily have access to the finance or don't have the access to the expertise that we've got. For us to come into Canada, which is very mature when it comes to resources, commodity trading, etc., we probably don't have as much to offer, and probably, to be honest, couldn't make as much money.
Yeah,
you
almost be trading against bigger governments in a sense.
We'd be the mid-tier miner, We'd be the small guys. So what we do is we aggregate all those small guys up into an offtake agreement. For example, 16 different coal mines. We aggregate all those resources. We own those resources. Now we're a big boy. We can go play with those big boys. If we go to North America, our whole reason for existing sort of becomes diluted.
No, that makes sense. And how about you, Sam? Do you have another question that you'd like to ask him?
Yeah, I'm a little confused with the NFT portion. Because I'm more familiar with like um NFTs being on secondary markets and then its value either going up or just crashing. So, but then you mentioned that it lives for as long as the commodity is being shipped and then it gets burned. So how would the value go up and then burn?
Yeah, most people are familiar with NFTs as being PFPs, profile pictures, and collectibles, right? We started working with NFT way back before all of this Bored Ape yacht clubs and everything sort of came out from a pure technology perspective. This is way back when you had to make your NFT from the command line. There was no user interface, no OpenSea, none of this stuff. So our NFTs are literally that. It's a non-fungible token because every trade we do, every shipment of coal or nickel is different. It's the same stuff. The commodity is fungible. Every piece of coal or nickel is the same as every other piece of coal or nickel. But the shipment itself is non-fungible because it's on a different date to a different ship to a different customer. So that's why we use those non-fungible tokens to represent that shipment of coal. And the reason why the price goes up is because the closer the commodity delivery gets to the end customer, the more valuable it is, and the more trade finance we can give the miner, right? Let's say you've got some coal and you haven't dug it up yet. Well, we're only going to give you 10% of its value. Once you've dug it up and it's closer to being turned into money, we'll give you more of its value. And so that NFT representing that shipment goes up in price until the coal is delivered and it's not ours anymore. So we burn that NFT because its value is now zero.
That makes sense. And then as well, you can use it as kind of like a logistics thing for shipping and stuff like that
100%.
to be able to keep track of everything
That's right.
that we're doing.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
exactly.
Like there's a lot of companies that are looking for the resources and stuff that are coming in, but they have no idea where it is or what's happening. So by doing that on that NFT, you're giving them a way to be able to track everything and where it is in its process as it goes through it's your system, right?
That's right. By tokenizing that shipment and by using the blockchain as an audit trail, which it's perfect for. I mean, people forget that there's nothing magical about the blockchain. A blockchain is just an append only database. Due to the cost of recalculating all the blocks, all the data that's in there already, it's essentially append only, right? And that means it's perfect for an audit trail. So at each step in the commodity life cycle, we can add new data in a new block, but we can't change the data that's already there. So it's great for us to be able to show transparently what's happening with the trade.
Viben, do you have another question?
Yeah, and actually, what gives you guys access to the commodities that you guys have access to?
Great question. A lot of people will look at us and they're like, wow, Enegra is this overnight success. I mean, never heard of you. And all of a sudden you've got like a $14 billion market cap. What's the story? The story is we started out in 2011, coming to Indonesia, creating the relationships that have allowed us to be successful. And that's what it all comes down to. It's all about people and relationships. So we came here, we built up credibility with the government, we built up credibility with the banks, we built up credibility with the logistics guys, but most importantly, we built up relationships and credibility with the miners. You know, when we first came here, they're like, who are these guys? You know, why are we dealing with them? No thanks, we do it all ourselves. But it's all about us showing the benefit that we can give them, which has allowed us to all of a sudden be this overnight success 10 years later.
It's amazing. I just want to keep it close to the 40 minutes. I don't think we're over yet, but we'll just end with 3 more quick questions for you. But I guess
Sure.
The other one I have, this kind of acts as a security token as well. I mentioned earlier to you off camera about how I read on your guys's Twitter about a transfer of an NFT between 2 people and how one person, something happened, but the person was able to get their money back in the end. Is it the same thing when it comes to shipment? Say something happens, it's getting shipped by boat and it goes into the ocean. Is the person that took that order protected that NFT or buy Enegra in the end?
Yeah, great question. Let me deal with that in two parts. The first part, all of the things that Enegra does are regulated, right? As opposed to most of the things in the blockchain world, which historically haven't been regulated. You know, we're starting to see some regulation come in. But way back in 2017, when we started down this road, we said, we're going to comply with all regulations, you know, as much as possible. So when we tokenized our equity, we had to tokenize it in such a way that the regulator was happy with it, right? Because EGX represents ownership of our company, we have to know who the token holders are, and we have to be able to reissue those tokens to them if they lose access to them, right? And what happened, the situation you're describing is someone got scammed out of their EGX tokens. And because of our token design, we were able to retrieve those stolen tokens from the scammer and put them back in the wallet of the person that they belong to, right? Which is quite powerful, obviously. You can sleep at night, you know, you don't have to worry about losing your tokens. The second situation you're talking about with the NFT and the coal shipment is a little bit different. With the commodity, depending on the terms of the commodity contract, it might be CIF or FOB. Basically, these are different terms, which mean when does my responsibility stop and your responsibility as the buyer start? If the contract says that my responsibility as the seller stops when it goes onto your ship, that means if your ship gets lost at sea, it's nothing to do with me. You talk to your insurance company.
Yeah.
If the contract says that my responsibility ends when it reaches the port at the other end, then if it gets lost at sea, it's still my problem. Now, the NFT side of it just represents that contract and our traceability of the shipment and our finance of the shipment. It doesn't represent the real world asset. I mean, I can take that NFT and give it to someone else, but if the coal's on the bottom of the ocean, I mean, it's not going to move the coal.
Yeah, no doubt.
So how do those NFTs retain value after a transaction is complete? Like, if I could ask that question before we.
When the transaction is completed, the value is zero, and we burn that NFT.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got it.
Its life cycle is finished. Bam, gone.
That's amazing. And Sam, do you have another question?
No.
Are you good? Perfect. And I guess the next thing, can this be tied to, say, a person wants to go into the mining aspect of it? If they wanted to, say, buy some of this mining land, like say where they're going to mine coal or whatever, could they actually use your project in a way to be able to do that or be able to finance it in some way? Or are you more looking at just the other aspects of it?
Yeah, great question. Without giving anything away, we are looking at how we can utilize this technology and our model in the wider ecosystem in the future. So, you know, first it was just the contract, and it was our equity. Now it's the debt. Now we're looking at how we can expand how we do this, and not just for a small collection of people in the ecosystem, but for the wider community. For example, often when we look at monetizing a commodity that a miner has, there's some infrastructure that needs to get built around that. You know, these guys have got some great access to nickel or coal, but there's no road to get there. And so we look at how can we build the road, and to build that road, we might finance it, and we might tokenize the ownership of that road. Let's make 100 million. It's $100 million stretch of road. We'll make 100 million tokens, and we'll finance that road by issuing tokens, and that road will give a return from the money that it gets from the trucks that take the commodities down. So those token holders will now get a piece of that action. So we're looking at how we can apply this to many different things.
That's amazing. Like I really like the idea of it, because the more you deeper down the rabbit hole you go, you realize what you guys are looking at in the ecosystem that you're truly building. I think there's a lot more behind this project that you can't quite really talk about yet, but I can just tell, like, from talking to you about that small thing, there's so many doors that kind of open in the ecosystem that you guys can take advantage of to make your project even bigger, which is amazing.
I would agree too. Like, here's the funny thing, right? Like, you guys have this commodity, right? A lot of people right now value basically NFTs on art and what they appreciate as far as the artifact, though, right? And you guys are coming in with this actual commodity, and this is actually a really smart time to be in the commodity industry. As you know, it's a lot of things going on in the world, and commodities are actually starting to go this way. I'm actually very interested in what you guys are doing and how you actually tying the commodities to NFTs and actually giving it value for the nature of the transaction, almost like funding the transaction before it occurs. And you guys do it in different levels with different tokens. So definitely very interesting.
Yeah, I think we're only scratching the surface at the moment of what can be done with tokenization in general and NFTs specifically. We've done a little bit of research, and there's some other really smart people out there doing a bunch of things. You can essentially use an NFT as a wallet. You can have that NFT and you can shove other things inside it. Other NFTs, I can shove Ether, I can shove a bunch of other tokens in there, and then I can transfer that NFT to someone else, and all that other stuff goes with it. And people, I think, haven't really started utilizing the technology to its fullest potential.
This is truly going to open up borders too, when you talk about Asia, India, all these places, because if you think about it, there's some areas that might not have been able to be developed before, and you guys could come in, tokenize the roads, tokenize the infrastructure, and you can go into places that nobody else has been able to go to before, which I think is absolutely amazing. Like, I'm super excited for this project to be on BigONE and to see what you guys are doing. Do you have anything else, Vivan, to add before?
Yeah. Eli, I don't know if you guys covered this before I jumped in. How big is the team right now amongst the actual company?
That depends on which part of the company you're talking about. We have a relatively small team compared to our market cap and valuation, simply because we own a large amount of commodities. And
it's a whole different beast, right? Like it's a whole different beast. That's why I'm intrigued, because you actually don't need like as big as a team as you don't need these developers.
Well, no, we're not a technology company, right? I'm actually a tech guy, but I left that so that I could come into the application of that technology, because that's the more exciting thing for me, is the real world applications of it. It's not theoretical anymore. So what we do, to answer your question in a slightly tangential manner, we borrow as many smart people from other companies as we can. So, for example, we partner with Tokeny for our issuance platform and our management of our tokens. So now we've got all of Tokeny's development team in-house, right? We partner with Meld to give us some liquidity and borrowing and staking and all of this for our EGX token. We partner with miners to dig up the commodity, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have to do any of that. We partner with a logistics company to provide all the logistics. We partner with the banks to provide the finance. So what we do is basically strategy and management, right?
Open source. We source it out.
We do have a mine team, right? But that mine team is all about due diligence. So we have mine engineers. They go out, they make sure that the mine exists, that the nickel actually exists, that it's the right quality. We have an audit team. The audit team makes sure that the commodity that someone's bought arrives there being the same quality, same amount. But most of our team is actually central office management, finance, etc. So we have quite a small team, and we just manage those smart people that work for other companies.
Respectful. That's respectful. I mean, a lot of it can be done on chain. Did you receive this? Yeah. Did it check out? Yeah. So it's actually it actually applies to real world business, and that's why I'm so intrigued.
And we've been remote from day one. So we pre-COVID, pre all of this, we've sort of been leading the curve. So we're a distributed company. Our group is registered in Labuan, but our head office is in Kuala Lumpur. I'm here in Jakarta at the moment. We've got an office in Singapore. So we're distributed.
I'm
Smart
super
decision.
excited about this because I keep on thinking about different things. Like you guys could even do like energy related projects of like solar panels or windmills and then tokenize that and give it the ability to kind of stake back to the people that are in your project. Like there's a ton of stuff. I'm just going through in my head. I should just keep it to myself, but that's all the stuff I'm thinking about. I really admire what you guys are doing, and I really appreciate that you took the time to meet with all of us today. It means a lot. I know how busy you guys are, so thank you so much for taking part with BigONE and with Chris and Sam. Like we really appreciate the time that you took with us today. It means a lot. So
I appreciate the time to have a chat. Appreciate you listening, and we're very happy and excited to be listed on BigONE, and we've got big plans for what we do with you in the future.
Yeah,
well,
keep the word big in there, man. And one thing I say, Eli, man, it's always exciting when you can actually talk to people who are actually applying the cryptocurrency into real world. And that's probably why you see me smiling most of the video, because a lot of the things that we get to see nowadays is just that PFP, that hype, right? Where it's like maybe they'll build a roadmap out to actually give it like that usability. And you guys are actually tackling a major task, getting into the commodity industry, having a real business model, and actually being able to turn it into a token. Super smart, super intelligent. I appreciate the time, and I hope we get to speak again.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
anything you want to say in closing, Sam?
Yeah, thank you so much for spending your time with us here, Eli, for answering our questions. It's been really great to meet you and understand a little more about EGX.
Likewise, Sam. Thank you.
And I just want to leave something else in closing for people to think about that watch this video. Is one of the things I think about is with this and the commodities you're dealing with, this could be potentially someone for BigONE or for an exchange where you're trading commodities as well as your tokens on cryptocurrency exchanges in the future. That's just dropping something for the future, but I always like leaving on a note where it makes people think, like, could you imagine the possibilities on a cryptocurrency exchange if commodities are getting exchanged on a place such as this? So
We'll see.
Yeah, we will.
Exactly.
Thanks so much. And I'll end the recording right now. You guys all have a wonderful day. And I hope
Appreciate
that
it,
we
Eli.
talk with Eli very soon again.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you, guys.